Evening all, Daniel Hand, RPG therapist, and today we're going to look in a bit more detail at that indispensable first element of the Story Trinity, the character that will be your client's avatar in and connection to the game slash story that you'll be playing. Now, the client's character is easily the most versatile tool that we as RPG therapists have at our disposal. Not only can they provide us with a ton of information directly about the client's inner values and outlooks, they serve as a safety mechanism that helps prevent the client from becoming too overwhelmed by the topics and emotions you're talking about in your sessions. They're an ally who accompanies the client through their therapy and a means of delivering that therapy unobtrusively. On top of that, getting a clear sense of who and what the character is will help us create the other two aspects of the Trinity, the setting and the obstacle. So, how do you go about creating a therapy-appropriate RPG character? Let's take a look. If you watched my video a few weeks ago about choosing the quote-unquote right RPG for a particular client, you'll know that one of the most important factors you'll need to take into consideration is the game's character sheet. And between you and me, that character sheet will play an important role in creating the character. I know, who'd have thought? So make sure you've got that to hand and have a pretty good idea of how you need to work your way through it. Each system will have its own procedures. Some will require you to roll specific dice in a specific order. Others will need you to choose various characteristics from various lists. Some will be a mixture of both. Some will be something else entirely. Yada, yada, yada. So you'll need to at least know where to look in the book to find the appropriate instructions. And then settle in. This is probably going to take a while. Give the client a copy of the character sheet and get yourself started. So first thing to do is to help the client get a rough idea of what they want their character to be. This doesn't need to be set in stone, of course, but you'll at least need a vague image just to begin with, so you know what you're working towards. Do they want a fighty character, a sneaky one, a spellcaster? Do they want this individual to be kind and empathetic, or grim and terse? Once you have this basic idea, that's when it comes time to actually go through the motions of filling out the character sheet. But make sure you spend a bit of time at least throwing out some ideas so that you know what to work towards. Regardless of the system you're using, you'll notice that as you work your way through each step of the creation process and the sheet starts to fill out, the vague image you had of the character will start to come into focus. Maybe they're really strong but completely unable to do magic, or maybe they're a good all-rounder. Maybe you start out thinking they're going to be one way, but with each decision the client makes, you realise the character is becoming somebody else entirely. It's all about choices. Choosing where to put certain stats maybe, or which specific skills to take. And those choices will either affirm that initial image or move away from it. Again, the whole process is malleable. Even the client might be surprised by how some aspects turn out. But it's those choices that make this part of the process so therapeutically interesting. For us RPG therapists, helping our clients to create their character and observing their behaviour and decisions gives us a ton of information about them, their interests, their outlook, and this can all be incredibly helpful for their therapy. Maybe they created a super strong fighter because they unconsciously believe that physical strength can protect a person from bullies. Or maybe they went for a bookish character because they themselves love books and they wanted a character who shares their interests. Did they give their character a sword because it looked cool, or because it would give them an advantage in combat? There are so many ways we can glean valuable information from our clients through this process. Just remember to keep asking them why they made certain choices, and you'll gain a really exciting insight into their mindset. Just to labour the point though, this process will very probably take you a good couple of full sessions to work through. Unless you let the client finish it between sessions, but in my view that would be a huge missed opportunity. This will be especially true if you take time to discuss various creative decisions. So don't go into this thinking it'll be done and dusted in 5 minutes. There are a very, very few games that will allow you to do this. Role-playing games in psychotherapy, a practitioner's guide is one of them, but the majority will be quite time-consuming. Take my advice, do not try and create a RuneQuest character. That way lies madness. But eventually you'll have it all done. The numbers will be in the right places, the right tick boxes will have been ticked, everything on the sheet will be as it should be. That single piece of paper is now the very life and soul of this new individual. It tells you their strengths, their weaknesses, their belongings, absolutely everything. You'll have the obvious things like their name, but you'll probably also have information about their background and heritage. Ultimately, you've got an idea about who this character is and how they're likely to present in-game. By now, the client knows who they're going to be playing and will, if you've done it correctly, be excited to play as them. This is the personality who's going to be accompanying them on their adventures. And if you can get them to draw a picture, or at least find one online, that'll give them an even better feel. And sure, I know I've just spent half an hour talking about all this and all I've said is do what the book says, stupid. But it's really crucial that you know what you're doing here, because for our purposes certainly, this is the key to the whole intervention. It doesn't matter how you've got to this point, random character generation, picking from a list, whatever. The point is, if you've done the job properly, your client's fiction now has a protagonist. As I've said previously, the character is where the therapy happens. Why? Okay, time for the good stuff. Well, for a start, as we just said, the character creation process in and of itself gives so many opportunities for reflection and discussion. Oh, you gave the character a higher dexterity than wisdom score. Can you tell me a bit about why that was? Or, okay. What was it about the Take That, You Fiend spell that appealed to you more than the Poor Baby spell? Why did they choose one race or class over another? Why did they give them a particular background, etc., etc.? Character creation is an entire therapeutic exercise in its own right. Actually, as a quick aside, if you're interested in seeing how I work through this part of the process with my clients, I recently sat down with Amelia and Ryan over at Character Creator Cast and did exactly that, so link somewhere below. They're two of the loveliest people you could meet, and they've worked through dozens of different character sheets over the years. So give them a listen if you want an idea about how different games approach this subject. But the character really comes into their own when it comes time to actually play the game. This is where all the things we had to write essays on way back in basic training come into play. Transference, empathy, projection, parasocial relationships, systems, transactional analysis, the list goes on. Research has shown that our brains relate to fictional characters in very much the same way as they relate to real people. And therefore, this personality created specifically for the therapeutic process can become kind of a control group for our purposes. Both the client and the therapist know everything there is to know about them and can therefore use them as a testbed for various ways of feeling, thinking, and behaving. We can look at how they relate to various NPCs, what they think and do in various situations, why they react as they do to certain circumstances. That collection of numbers, tick boxes and lists becomes a role model or cautionary tale from whom we can learn valuable life lessons. Then there's the safety net aspect. By making the therapy all about the character rather than the client, everything becomes that bit easier to talk about. We all know that it's easier to talk about somebody else's problems rather than to sit with our own, and so by giving the client's issues to the character, we make it that bit easier to talk about those issues, reducing some of the anxiety that might otherwise have made talking about them too distressing or overwhelming had we kept them in the client's frame of reference. It's so much easier to let the character take all the risks and learn from them that, actually everything's going to be okay. Finally, developing the client's character means that we've now got the first element of our story trinity. All we need to do is follow up on this work, create a setting and an obstacle, and we'll have everything in place to tell a great therapeutic story. But by starting with the client's character, we're making sure that everything else stems from their visions, their beliefs, their outlooks, which means that this entire trinity will be tailor-made for them and their issues. It's cool. So, what do you guys think? Do you have any preferred methods of creating characters? Any favourite character sheets or playbooks? What kind of things would you keep a particular eye out for while helping your client create their character? Or have you ever created a character yourself to whom you really responded emotionally? And why do you think that was? Let us know in the comments. While you're down there, please like, subscribe, etc. And if you have any friends who might be interested in this topic, either from a therapeutic or an RPG perspective, don't forget to give me a mention. And do remember to give Amelia and Ryan a listen. They're just absolutely wonderful. All done? Cool. In that case, until next time, take it easy, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and have a good one. Cheers. Everyone, it's here! Role-playing games in psychotherapy, a practitioner's guide by some random bloke called Daniel Hand. Pick up a copy wherever you get your books, and obviously please do leave a 6-star review. I'd much appreciate it.